Hey there YouTube, I wanted to do a video about a problem that's consisted in my life personally and taken up a big part of it for a long time. And I know that millions and millions of other people deal with it regardless of age, race, gender, and that's mental illness. Lily's here. What? What? Bug?
Hello, little baby.
Hello, little baby. Come, Mama, talk to the phone. Here, take your bubbles. Take your bubbles. Go watch
Thank
Peppa.
you.
Yeah, go watch Peppa. Now, I've been struggling with mental illness since I was about 13 is when I noticed it, really. I started feeling very depressed and alone and just different. I did start to self-mutilate to relieve the feelings. It wasn't severe. I'm really bad with pain, so just a little cut here and there made me feel better. And I know that sounds odd, but the thing is, have you ever been so angry and you have no way to release it? There's no one you can release it on. There's nothing you can do, and you've just, I don't know, done something like kicked a wall or just punched a wall. So you got out the feelings that there just seemed like there was no other way to fix it, that you had to do it. And it was, well, when I was 13, it was 2004, so the emo thing was huge, and I did learn about other people self-mutilating, and I thought, well, if they're doing it, maybe it works. And scientifically it does, because it releases endorphins. It releases endorphins into your body, so it does make you feel relieved, calmer, number, pretty much. And when you're feeling severe feelings or extreme feelings, like depression or anxiety or anger, it feels so much better just to be number than to be feeling that. Okay, so I dealt with that in secret for about a year. And then when I was 14, I had my first severe panic attack. I was at school. I was walking, I remember clearly, even now, and I was walking from one building to the next through the outside corridor. And all of a sudden, it just felt like the world shifted. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt extremely hot. I thought I was going to pass out. My heart was beating so fast. It was terrifying. It was like all of a sudden my adrenaline just went through the roof for no reason. Like as if you're being chased by Jeffrey Dahmer in an abandoned building and you have no weapons to protect yourself. It's that intense. That's how intense panic attacks feel. You just feel like you're going to die, and it's going to be awful, and you have no way to save yourself, and you just want to run. But I ran to the nurse's office because I thought I was going to pass out, and I was crying, and I was trying to explain how I felt. So they just called my parents to take me home. They didn't say anything. They didn't tell me what they thought it was. And so I just went home, and I calmed down, and I tried to go back to school the next day.
What is it? It's very hot. Bye!
I went to school, and then I started feeling the same feelings as I walked into the corridor. Little bug is trying to hit the phone. There you are. You got beans on your face.
Hi.
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 So I walked into school, feeling a little nervous, but not that bad. And all of a sudden, panic started happening again. And instead of telling the nurse or anything, I just called my dad on my cell phone, ran outside, and just hid. I don't know where I hid. I hid behind like this little wall thing. I don't know. And just waited for my dad. He got there, and I got in the car. I was crying. And he took me home, and I went and tried to calm down again and laid in bed. And from then on, I did not want to go back to school. I thought school was the reason that I was losing my mind. I was going online, Googling, taking tests, trying to figure it out. Figured it was probably anxiety. After a while, still didn't understand what that meant fully. And then my mom and dad were really upset. They thought that I was just being a teenager, or that I was faking because I didn't want to be in school, and I refused to go. And they're like, well, we live in America, and if you don't go to school for amount of time and there's no proper excuse, they might come and put us in jail or take you away. And I was like, well, they're going to have to come take me away then, because there's no way in hell I'm going back to school. Because that feeling is, I don't want to deal with that feeling again. It started happening to the point where if I went to the grocery store, if I went and tried to take a walk outside, the panic would start. So then I just stayed inside. I became agoraphobic. I didn't leave my house for 6 months straight. I had anxiety that turned into agoraphobia, and also panic disorder because of the severe panic attacks that would come out of nowhere, and depression. And then a new symptom started happening where I'd be having a panic attack and I couldn't relieve it. There was nothing I could do, and I would just be sitting there crying and yelling and just asking my mom, my sister, my dad just to make the feeling stop. I can't make it stop. And there was nothing they could do. And all of a sudden, a new symptom started. All of a sudden, my body seemed to shut down. I would feel completely numb and spacey and just distanced from the world. Later on, realizing that was depersonalization, another symptom from the severe anxiety, my body trying to make itself feel better, I guess. So after 6 months of this, I looked a wreck. I stopped eating. I completely forgot to eat unless someone would literally take me out of my room and say, come get some food. And so I would eat when I was asked to. I didn't really talk to anybody unless it was a direct question, and then I would answer yes or no type answers. And I stopped bathing. My face, I'm not prone to very much acne. My face was just covered in pimples. It was terrible. I looked how I felt. I looked scary and I looked crazy. And so my mom finally took me to see a child counselor who did validate that these are real feelings and that I had anxiety, panic disorder, agoraphobia, depersonalization, and depression. That was at the age of 14. She said I was the youngest one she dealt with all of these problems. They made me go see a psychiatrist to prescribe me medication. They put me on Zoloft, got a high amount. It was 250 milligrams or something, a high amount. And I started feeling better. The anxiety would be a little weird every now and then, but I went and told them, and so they started lowering the dose until they thought it was the right dose. And Zoloft and my psychiatrist and my family pretty much saved my life, because when I was at that 6 months of just not feeling, not talking, all I could think about was death, killing myself, hoping to die, if we went in the car somewhere, to see my psychologist and things like that. I would hope that, another car would crash into us and we get in a terrible accident and I would die. Or I would practice holding my breath to see if I could suffocate myself, or put my hands around my neck, and things like that. I would practice inhaling water through a straw to see if I could really drown myself, and just it was bad, and it was terrifying. It was the real deal. And the Zoloft really helped me. I still continued cutting, and the reason why I never thought about killing myself through cutting is because I just know myself, and there's no way I think I would be able to cut deep enough and not freak the fuck out sticking inside my arm. I can't be sure why I continued to cut myself after I started feeling better. I mean, feeling better does not mean I was cured. Like, I still, to this day, I still deal with anxiety and depression. It's not what it was back then. But I think cutting almost became like an addiction. You know, I got upset. I could, find this way for quick release without having to actually think things over or even try. I would hide it by tying ribbons and shoelaces and stuff around my wrist and saying it was a new fad, and people thought it was cool. And my parents ended up finding out because they're friends with a psychologist. And it was a Halloween, and we went to this place with the psychologist and a bunch of other people, and we were doing like a seance type thing. And she sat right next to me. And I guess my ribbons slid down a little bit, and she saw some of the marks, and she pulled my parents to the side and told them that I was cutting. I was definitely self-injuring, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so they confronted me. I freaked out, ran away. I didn't run away for like a long period. I just ran out of the house for a while and then came back, and so I ended up having to stop doing that. And the threat was, you continue to cut, we'll have to put you in an actual hospital. And so, I mean, every once in a while I would still do it, but I pretty much quit because at this point I wasn't too bad agoraphobic anymore, but I was terrified of not being able to come home. It was my safe zone. I started getting myself better I would literally walk around the house, outside of the house, and walk and start walking further and further until I realized that I'm not going to have a panic attack or die for being away. And so I got better that way, but I was still a teenager, and I just went through fucking hell. And so I remained friends with a few people, and we started drinking. I became almost like an alcoholic, pretty much. It was another, self-medication type thing, and I was a bad drunk. It was terrible. So many things could have happened to me. Blackout drunk, and coming home and cutting and freaking out, and it wasn't a good time. From 15 to probably like 17 was pretty crazy. But anywho, I ended up getting better, being smarter. I can't handle hard alcohol. I don't drink it. I'll have beer every now and then. It's very rarely because I have to take care of these boo-boo bears, and I'm not going to put them in a harmful situation. Oh, the reasoning behind why I contracted or got anxiety and depression. Well, I've talked to my doctors for a long time. We couldn't figure out any past traumas. We couldn't find any abuse, no sexual abuse, no emotional abuse, nothing like that. I was never abandoned or neglected as a child. I've never seen someone murdered in front of me. Nothing like that. So we don't know exactly what triggered it. They told me that it is a chemical imbalance in my brain. So basically for me, it's like, so I deal with shit that people from Iraq, like, they dealt with some crazy stuff. I had to deal with shit for that just because my brain just decided it was going to be against me. It was hard to come to terms with that. Even today, it's like hard to come to terms with. And all the diagnosis, all 5 of them, I thought was a little excessive. I've been studying psychology since I figured out what was wrong with me, and I've gone to college for it, just one class so far, but I've self-studied for years, and I don't know, I think five disorders just seems excessive. Like, I feel like it's more like one thing with a bunch of symptoms. Like, borderline personality disorder almost seemed to come out because before I got sick, I was with the depression so badly and stuff like that. I was an angry, over-emotional, mean person, and it seriously represented borderline personality disorder. I almost thought I had antisocial personality disorder, which would be like a sociopath, because I just disliked everybody. But my depression did make me see that I really do care about how people feel, and I care about how we make each other feel, and I'm very sensitive and empathetic towards almost all people now. I say almost because, of course, I'm not sympathetic towards like a pedophile. But yeah, it's a confusing thing with this, because I feel like it's really slowed my life down and hindered it, but at the same time I feel like it saved me, because there was a lot of things I didn't do. I didn't do a bunch of drugs because I was afraid of how it would affect my brain already with anxiety and things like that. So, and it made me a better, empathetic, caring person. So, it's got its pros, but mostly cons. Other things I've thought about that could have triggered it. I noticed, let's see. When I was 11, I had an incident where all of a sudden I was sitting in class. It's always at school. I don't know. And my vision just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder. And then I started trying to read a book. And I couldn't process the information. And my vision kept getting weaker and weaker. And so I raised my hand. I was like, I need to go to the nurse. I'm like going blind. And so I went to the nurse, and basically I was lost. My brain was just like shutting down for some reason, and I was lost. I didn't know where I was. But I finally made it to the nurse's office, and I basically sat down, said, my name's Caitlin Gardner, and there's something really wrong with me. But I basically got into the office, and I sat down, and I said, my name's Caitlin, and I need help. And they said, okay, we'll help you, and that's pretty much the last thing I remember. They ended up calling the ER. I went to the hospital, and I ended up going into a coma. Now, at first, they were testing me for a bunch of drugs because they thought I was on drugs, because I was talking, I guess, to everybody. I was talking to people like I was a baby and saying weird things. I don't recall any of it, and I was not on any drugs. And my mom got pissed, and she said, obviously, she's not on drugs. Figure this out. They said it was a confusion migraine that caused my brain to shut down and put me in a coma. Now, I feel like that could have caused some kind of PTSD, anxiety, trauma type thing, because I was always afraid that all of a sudden I was just going to forget where I was, that I was going to pass out, go into a coma at any time, because it was so out of nowhere. So I feel like maybe that could be, that's a theory. I also had a panic attack once when I was, I didn't do drugs, but I smoked weed every once in a while. I don't anymore at all, because I have very negative side effects. Like I'm about to explain. You want me to open it?
Yeah.
I think I was about 12. I was about 12. I had snuck out of my house, and I went to a friend's house down the street. They were rich kids, and they had a bunch of expensive high-grade marijuana. Started smoking the marijuana with them. Took one hit, and all of a sudden it was the panic attack, but I was high, so it was fucking worse. And I couldn't think straight, I couldn't breathe, I just thought I was losing my mind. And so I ran out of there, and I kind of just never thought about it again until all the other stuff started happening. I've tried, ever since that happened when I was 12, keep in mind that I'm now almost 25. I have only smoked weed 2 or 3 times since that, and each time I had a panic attack. So I'm like either allergic to it or I just mentally can't handle it. I'm wondering if marijuana had anything to do with it. I don't know. I'm not against marijuana. It helps more people than it hurts, and it doesn't kill anybody. I'm not against it at all, but I'm wondering if, for me personally, I wonder if it triggered my anxiety or caused weird serotonin levels. I don't know. So even though they told me it was a chemical imbalance, still to this day I try and think of, there's got to be more cause to it than that, but it's genetic and you can be born with it, I guess. But, yep, that's my story. I'm much better now. I'm not agoraphobic at all. I do have panic attacks every once in a while. They'll pop up out of the blue, but I know how to handle them now, and I also have medication that I can take, and it'll relieve it. But yeah, everything's a lot better. I still talk to a counselor every 6 months or so to make sure everything's good. But yeah, since I was 15, I've been on. Oh, I was on Zoloft, and they tried me on a couple other things that just didn't work. And now I'm on Prozac. When I was pregnant with Lily, I did not. What did I take? I was taking something else, and I switched it because it hasn't been really proven safe. So then they put me on Prozac at a low dose when I was pregnant with Lily, and I stopped smoking, drinking. I didn't even smoke the e-cig. Like, I didn't do anything when I was with Lily except for the Prozac because the doctor said she would be fine. And so I trusted her, and I took her at her word, and I was like, if something happens to this baby, it's going to be her fault. But she's perfectly healthy. She's fine. But yeah, I guess I'll end it there. I kind of just wanted to let everybody know my personal story, that you're not alone, that there's no reason to kill yourself. I know in the moment it feels like it's the only answer, but just talk to somebody, and they can save your life, because I would have missed out on a lot of stuff if I took my life in that time period. I would have missed out on my Ladybug and Marilyn and Michael and just everything. I mean, I've gotten my GED since then. I went to school, I started working, I did, there's a lot you could miss from it. You don't need to hurt yourself. Just talk to somebody, get help. It can be fixed. Just like any other sickness on your physical body, it can be, if not fixed, it can be treated, and you'll be okay. You're going to be okay. I'm okay. You're okay. We're all okay. Yeah, mental illness is a serious thing, just like any other physical sickness. It's not a joke. It's not something that you can switch on with positive thoughts. On and off with positive thoughts. Like, that's not how this shit works. It's very ignorant when people say that. It's laughable because, scientifically, that's not true, and it's just rude. Don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. But you're not alone. You're going to be okay. And, yeah. If you guys have any questions for me, leave me a comment down below. I think Lily's done with me on here, so I'll talk to you guys later.